When I first started, it was probably within 3 months I needed to employ people because I had landed such a huge contract and there was no way that I was going to fulfil that contract all by myself, because it meant we were actually, it wasn't selling a product, we were selling a service. So for some time I did a number of roles, a number of functions in the company, but it wasn't long before I actually started employing. Started off first with freelancers, and I did actually find, for me, it really hasn't worked because the freelance people learn from you and then they go out, and my initial freelancers actually set up a competing company very quickly afterwards. But it sort of allowed me to deliver what I needed to without a huge cash outlay. And then I just looked for people who I could employ on a full-time basis. The Channel 4 programme, it was the second time I'd been approached, and I think for me what's important, it has to be the right timing, and to sort of go into doing charity and philanthropy, you've really got to want to do that. So my inspiration came from a trip I went out to in Mumbai when I was actually on a British women's delegation, and we were looking at India and how business works in India. And one of the days we were taken to various different charities. And one of the charities I went to there was the National Spastic Society, which was actually set up by a woman who went over to India 35 years ago. And she stayed out there because her daughter was disabled and there was no rights for disabled children to have education. So she was really quite anguished by this and decided to stay out there and change policy. And I was quite inspired by what she'd actually done. And when I came back, I was just like wishing for something to happen where I could get myself into charity or philanthropy or do something of a different nature rather than just being in business. And I just got a call out of the blue, and this was the second time, and this time I knew it was right for me in terms of the timing, so that's why I decided to do it. For most women, they're juggling so many roles, so it's having the ability to balance all of that. And if you can balance that, and if you really want something, then you will do it. I mean, I've got 2 children, I run a business, I've got a family home, I do all the cooking every day, and I have to do that so that I don't sort of upset the home life. But then I really want to run my business, so I think if you have the balancing skills, then it becomes easier. I always prioritise all the most important events. I'll never forgive myself for the time I missed sports day because I didn't put it into my diary. So all the really important events I put into my diary, and you know, there are times when I can't do certain things, but I'll make sure I'll make time for those. I do have somebody who sort of helps me now because children do lots of different after-school activities, and I really just take 1 week at a time because I am so busy. It would be very difficult to thinking long term like that. So I just take 1 week at a time because my diary changes so radically as well. I think because there are a lot of women out there who just don't have that confidence to go for it. They have that passion. So I think if they are able to see other women, then they can emulate that success. And you know, because they have so much to prove, once they're there, they often are very, very successful. So I think it is good that the profile of women in business is raised because it sort of does provide inspiration to other women who might want to take that path. I think for women who haven't quite yet started their businesses or but have aspiration, I think they find it quite inspirational to see other women out there who've made it a success so that they can then follow in that path. So I think it's good for people who haven't, you know, women who haven't actually quite got there yet. I think staffing and staff motivation is one of the most challenging and hardest things for all entrepreneurs, because entrepreneurs are very hands-on, very controlling. And for me personally, it has been a huge challenge. So having to let go, allowing people to make mistakes and then taking them through development. So in order to sort of keep people motivated all the time, a few years back I had to introduce performance management systems and appraisal systems, personal development plans, so that they could see that they were progressing and getting the development behind them as well. I absolutely believe that a recession is the best time to start a business. If you look at some of the most successful businesses, they started their businesses in the recession. So Hewlett-Packard, Disney, and I think because it's a difficult time, it teaches you good lessons at the start. So you know, being a bit more cautious with money, you can get things cheaper, and if you can survive through the recession, then when it comes out of the recession, you'll really thrive. So I'm actually currently working and with a number of people to try and help them to set up in the recession. Initially, I sought advice from an accountant on whether I should be a sole trader or I should be a limited company. And at that time, I thought I'd probably be earning similar to the salary I was earning, and I went through a sole trader. But quickly, my profits and turnover was really growing quite fast. And it's at that point I decided to change the status to a limited company for taxation purposes. When you're a sole trader, then you're taxed as you would be doing as if you had a job. The taxation system is the same, so you'd be paying your 40% on your higher earnings. With a limited company, you're paying corporation tax, so which has changed over the years, so it's currently at 21%. And when your profits are over 300,000, then it jumps to the next band. So you will actually end up paying less tax, and then you can decide to take dividends, etc. I mean, there's pros and cons. It depends how much money you need every month from the company, but certainly where your turnover is a lot higher than a limited company would be better.